Sorry about that, folks. We're back live. I'm Alex Oliver, your host for Project Onward Artists at Home. We are. Hopefully, you're still with us. We're currently waiting for George to get online here, and then we'll begin our interview. Maybe we can send him a text or get him on the phone. Whit, are you getting in touch with someone in George's camp? Here we are. I think he might be on now.
Hi. So you are Whitney's husband.
That's right.
Turn off the TV, please.
We've met at the studio before.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Now let's talk. Let's chat this.
Excellent.
What should we chat about?
I'm as excited as I am.
All right.
How was your afternoon so far, George?
Huh?
How was your afternoon?
My afternoon was very good. I just watched Messengers from Moscow on my tablet.
Did you watch?
Messengers from Moscow, the PBS program on YouTube, on my tablet right now.
Oh, fantastic! I'm not familiar with that. Can you explain a little bit of the background? What's it about?
Yes. Well, I was fifth-born second son.
No, the movie.
I was watching Messages from Moscow.
What is it about?
It's about the Soviet Union, the figures who served in the Soviet Union between its existence 1917 until 1991 tell their story, interviews about their past. The Soviet Union in present-day Russia, 1995.
Interesting. Now, I know you are a bit of a history buff, and particularly...
Yeah, I just watched it at 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
During Japanimation time.
Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about some other historical events that you're interested in? I know World War II is a big one for you. Is that right?
Well, the Cold War is most biggest.
I see.
1980s Cold War. I was four brothers born here in Chicago.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, what year were you born, George?
1981.
1981. Okay, great. So you were there just for the beginning.
That was 3 months after Reagan became president.
Yeah, wow, really kind of the real start of the 80s there, the Reagan era for sure, and certainly Cold War.
Right. My big brother Junior was born before me when Carter's last year of president.
Wow.
Carter's last year as
So do you
president.
think that's part of the reason why you're so interested in that particular period, because it's when you were born?
Well, after Reagan. Well, from Reagan to now Trump.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Now, what is it about the Cold War that you found so interesting?
Well, about the arms race and the Reagan doctrine. Some things that I have no idea what is it about back then. I was in my kindergarten years when Reagan and Gorbachev met in Geneva, Switzerland, November '85. Back in November '85.
Yeah.
I was 4 years old.
Do you remember being aware of it when you were young, or is it something you really?
Everyone was aware of it.
You kind of.
I had no idea back then.
But as you got older, you took.
I was in my kindergarten years.
Wow. Yeah, that's really amazing. Well, we can certainly talk more about history a little later on, but of course, people tuning in are dying to know about your art because.
My art? This is my latest.
Yeah,
check it out.
Excellent.
Watch out. Oh!
What is it? What is this?
This is my latest piece.
I'm sorry. What is it?
This is my latest piece.
Great. Can you tell us about it? Who is that in the piece?
This is from a fashion magazine.
I see.
Downloaded by my brother Junior on my computer, on my laptop.
Wonderful.
Was this Virginia says that it is just an old laptop.
Uh-huh.
Now it's old laptop. It needs replacement.
Wow. Well, hey, that's all right. As long as you can still find images on there to help inspire your art. I mean, I guess it's still doing the trick.
Watch anime and documentary shows about Russia and the Cold War and stuff like that. Inspire me more.
I see. Now,
I recently got Generator Gall, the rest of the Generator Gall anime series on DVD.
do you think that the anime kind of is an influence on your own work? Do you take that kind of style and work it into your own art?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
I just recently done few pictures about that.
Yeah.
From that.
Who are some anime characters that you especially like?
Ranma Half. I still like Ranma. Shampoo and Generator Gall, Masami, Ro, and Koji.
Now,
and the villainess, Ruko Saito.
Little,
she's very good villainous.
George, I know this is a little more old school, but I know you're a Gigantor fan, isn't that right?
Well, add Gigantor to that.
How about the song?
Add Gigantor.
We've had some other artists perform on this interview series, and I know you do the Gigantor theme song. Any chance we could hear that?
Yeah. Watch out. Gigantor. 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 Gigantor, space age robot. He is at your command. Gigantor is this robot. His power in your hands. Bigger than big, taller than tall, quicker than quick, stronger than strong. Ready to fight for right against wrong. Gigantor, Gigantor, Gigantor. The incredible speed machine.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, it may have been hard for people to see at home, but your only accompaniment there was your stomach. You're kind of playing percussion on your belly there, which is one of your trademarks. You're definitely very good at that. Although there's not as much to play on these days, because I know you've been really passionate about diet and exercise lately, and it's been working out really well. And you look fantastic, George, I gotta say. What are some of your secrets? I know salmon's a big part of it. Is that right?
Salmon is my favorite stuff. My favorite food is salmon.
Awesome.
I eat salmon, and I drink, and I ate soup. Chicken top soup.
And you started to see
Lipton top soup, my favorite.
And you started to see results, and that's really kind of inspired you to keep going, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. As someone who whose weight kind of has always fluctuated for my whole life, I can really appreciate that. I could learn a thing or two from you, George. Yeah. Whitney's chiming in. She says quinoa and the treadmill.
And quinoa.
The treadmill too, huh?
And the treadmill. Quinoa.
Quinoa, excuse me.
And I'm recovering now from my eczema.
All right. But you're still hopping on that treadmill, huh? Awesome.
Yeah.
Way to go, George. That's really cool. We're all very proud of you. It's definitely important, especially now while we're all stuck at home, to stay active. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your art. I want to hear more about movies and TV and history and all the other things that you like. But we got to get into.
Well, Messages from Moscow. For instance, Messages from Moscow.
Messages from Moscow. Yeah, well, definitely I'll check that out.
That was the program that I used to watch when I was 13. First came out in both here in this country and over in the UK on the BBC.
Yeah. Right on. Well, now anyone who noticed when you tuned in, I know you're on your sister's Instagram here, which is I Love Reese's, and
Reese's, the cat. Reese's is my sister Lena's cat,
and who is also, if I'm not mistaken, the inspiration for Windy City Kitty. Is that right?
Yes.
And Windy City Kitty is one of the most iconic images in the Project Onward universe, and
right.
People Absolutely love it. It's been included on all sorts of merchandise. I know Whitney's got a T-shirt. There's been tote bags and just everything. Um, what's that like for you, knowing that you created this image that people love so much, George? Is that really exciting for you? Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, Reese's Windy City Kitty is basically the Project Onward mascot, really. That's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you take a lot of pride in that because people really love it. Oh, and Whitney wants to point out that you can buy a Windy City Kitty face mask too. So if you still need some more masks in your wardrobe, and we all have a drawer full of them these days, definitely add a Windy City Kitty mask. Are you wearing the Windy City Kitty
Yeah,
mask?
that's the Project Onward mascot.
You're wearing the shirt right now, aren't you, George? Can we see it?
Yes, I'm wearing it now.
Can you show it to everyone at home just in case they're not familiar?
Yes, yes, here it is.
Awesome.
Your cat.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Now, is the real Reese's around today?
He,
He's
he
sleeping.
is
Okay.
sleeping.
Well, maybe if he's up before the end of the interview, we can get a guest appearance, but we don't want to wake him up if he's sleeping. Um, well, tell us a little bit more about some of your other work, George. I want to point out another really great, more recent piece that you did is your Basquiat painting, which is phenomenal, and it really is very you put kind of an interesting spin on it with the color. It looks kind of like his work, basically. And can you tell us a bit about what it was like making that piece and how Basquiat might have inspired you?
Basquiat is coming from an artist named Basquiat.
Mm-hmm.
He came from New York and he just died when I was just 6, 7 years old.
Yeah. What do you think?
At that time, my big brother Junior was just 7 years old, 8 years old. Big brother Junior was 8 years old.
What do you think of his work?
Oh, the artist Basquiat that I didn't know before inspired me to do him.
I see. But then when you were actually making the piece, when you were doing his portrait, were you inspired by his work when you were making it?
Yeah, and Robin showed me his book.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. There's probably some pretty cool stuff in there, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
His life work in New York City.
yeah. Well,
And his suicide, his untimely death by suicide, drug overdose.
yeah, it's a shame. Well, what kind of materials do you typically use when you work, George? What do you prefer to work with?
I prefer to work with using Basquiat's influence.
Right, but as far as your, I know that was the first
Medium.
I've done in a while.
Colored
Colored
pencils.
pencils, excellent.
Colored pencils.
Yeah. What is it about colored pencils that you like so much? Is it because they're so colorful and there's so many colors to choose from? Because I know a lot of your work is
Many different colors. I also like pastel. I also like crepe. No, I also like art sticks.
I see.
They're made of wax, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a lot of people asking in the comments if you might get into painting more. Do you think you might do some more paintings, or would you prefer to keep working with the colored pencils?
Colored pencils. Also crepe. Also art sticks.
Also art sticks. Okay, well, just so you know,
I don't like those art sticks that have chalk in
of
them.
course. Yeah, they're kind of closely related. Well, if you ever do see a George painting, you want to snatch it up because they're rare, but they're always amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about some of the things that inspire you, George. What was it that got you into art in the first place? Do you remember?
Oh, Japanese anime, manga, and Godzilla, monster films, kaiju films, American Power Rangers. And before that, Japanese Super Sentai shows too.
How old were you when you started making art?
At 6 years old.
6 years old.
1987.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And was it something that you were really...
That was back when Reagan and Gorbachev signed the INF Treaty.
Wow.
The INF Treaty is also known as the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty. That's signed between the United States President Ronald Reagan, us last three brothers, Ronald Reagan, and the new Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev.
Right. Now, do you
And with us, the Soviet Union, of course.
usually relate a lot of your own life to what was going on in politics and in history at the time?
Well, Reagan and Gorbachev summoned the Reagan of Iceland, October '86,
This is a person.
and his SDI program, Mr. Reagan's SDI program, designed to shoot down enemy missiles in mid-flight.
Yeah. Wow. So George, I'm curious to know where
Soviet missiles, perhaps,
you were.
in mid-flight.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 1989 when the Berlin Wall came down. Is that right?
No, that was 1987. Reagan said at the Berlin Wall, at Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, said, "Tear down this wall, Mr.
That's right.
Gorbachev."
Very famous quote from Reagan. Where were you when that happened?
2 years before the wall fell.
Do you remember what? Do you remember seeing that on TV? Because by then you were probably what?
Yes, I don't know. I just saw that on television. I watched that on television.
Yeah,
Summer 1987.
that's really amazing. We've got someone. Let's see. Rob wants to know what your favorite tank is, George.
The M1 Abrams, the star of the Operation Desert Storm and the Cold War in Europe.
Yeah.
Our last three brothers, 80s Cold War in Europe.
Huh. That's pretty amazing. So it played a pretty important role in the Cold War, huh? In Desert Storm, anyway. That tank.
Yeah, Desert Storm, right.
Yeah. How about helicopters? Are you
And killer of a Russian T-72, killing Russian T-72s of Iraq.
Yeah. Wow.
And not the Soviet Union, no. Never been tested in combat there either. Never been tested in combat
That's pretty
there.
amazing.
In Europe.
Huh. Well, I mean, wow, that's spectacular, Georgia. We could do a whole separate interview about history because you clearly know your stuff. But let's talk a little bit more about your art.
Let's talk about it
Yeah,
now.
excellent. Well, so we talked about Reese's and Windy City Kitty, but I got to ask about Fluffy.
Fluffy, my creation. It's my creation.
So,
My
there are
creation.
other people.
I created
There are other
Fluffy.
characters related to Fluffy.
I depict him as Fluffy the dog. Cute or vicious.
Right, because
Cute or
despite the
vicious.
name, Fluffy's got kind of a dark side, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and then there's also Muffin, right?
Fluffy the vicious cat.
Fluffy's got a girlfriend too, right?
Frenchie.
And what? So Fluffy and Frenchie are both dogs. Muffin
Yeah.
is a cat. Now, is Frenchie nice or is Frenchie kind of vicious too?
Well, either both.
I
Both.
see. So do you usually draw them in different?
Funny stuff.
Do you sometimes?
You've been watching the scene from the movie The Pack.
Do you draw them kind of vicious and then other times kind of happy in sort of different?
Cute.
Yeah.
Cute.
Depending on what kind of mood you're in.
Yeah, cute. Depending on my mood.
Now, Allie wants to know about David's hamster. I don't know about David's hamster. What's that all about?
Despite the vicious hamster with his switchblade, he'll cut you.
Wow. So this is all. Now, are these drawn from your own experiences with different pets? Or have you known some pets that look
On television, movies, and TV.
TV?
Most notably, Man's Best Friend
Well, we've got.
and Stephen King's
How
Cujo.
about
About a vicious rabid dog terrorizing the neighborhood. It's a suburb.
Can we get an impression?
Got bit by a bat.
Can we get an impression of some of these animals, George?
Well, Robin told me about vicious animals. Like dogs and cats, wolves. Wolves are vicious
So
too. And bears.
Fluffy? What might Fluffy sound like?
Right. I guess, example.
That's pretty vicious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anyone who knows George knows that your bark is worse than your bite. 'Cause George is one of the nicest people at the studio. Definitely really
Yeah.
on that vicious side. But the Three Stooges kind of inspired these characters in a way, isn't that right, George? They're a big inspiration for you.
Yeah.
Tell us
Watching Man's Best Friend.
Tell us a little bit more about the Three Stooges and what you like about them.
Curly. He most notable Curly.
Can you give us a little Three Stooges bit? Can you?
Watch this. Curly. Woo! No allergies! Look at the crowds. Circling.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, I do an impression of Yoda. Reinforce with you, Pops. I'll call the police.
That's wonderful, George. So we've talked about history, we've talked about animation and movies.
Right, and monster
I know
films.
that music is.
And I haven't seen the rest of the Toho monster and sci-fi film libraries in my life.
Oh yeah. Well, there's
But Godzilla and Gamera are available here in the United
a
States.
lot of good
On VHS, on DVD, and so on.
I want to ask you about music. I know you're a big fan of music too, and you're usually always listening to your headphones on your old school.
Depeche
You
Mode,
got your cassette Walkman that you're always listening to music on. What are you usually listening to?
anime audio on YouTube.
Oh,
On YouTube.
is that where you listen to music?
Record audio from
You
YouTube.
record it from YouTube. I see. What do
Yeah, both the computer and then later this tablet.
What do you usually listen to?
80s music,
80s music,
broad-based classic rock music, classic rock that really rocks, and active rock,
active rock.
especially metal.
Fantastic. What are some examples of active rock? Who do you consider active rock?
The hardest rock in Chicago. That was from the old Rock 103.5.
Awesome. Now, I heard that you kind of like.
And previously Loop Loud. Before that, parent station 97.9 The Loop
I heard you.
ended its broadcast
What about world?
2 years
What about
ago.
world music, George? I heard you kind of like world music, particularly Indian.
Assyrian music,
Syrian. Okay,
Arab music, Assyrian music. I still listen to Indo-Pak music.
that's really cool. I like a lot of that stuff too. It's really interesting because they use a lot of different scales, and it sounds a lot different than a lot of Western music. So I can see how that might be kind of cool and kind of inspiring. When did you start getting into Syrian music?
Back when I was back in the 90s.
Wow, so a long.
Back when the old AM 50 WONX, the old WONX AM 1590
Yeah, that's very cool.
used to air those programs every Sunday morning and afternoon and into the evenings.
So do you always like to have music on when you're working? Is that part of your process?
Well, commercials perhaps.
Yeah,
Commercials and news, not music.
I see. Okay. And when you usually sit down to work on
Sometimes I record whole programs on my cassette,
when you're working on
including
your
music and commercials and news and stuff like
when
that.
you're working on your drawings, do you always like to have the music playing?
Yeah,
That kind of helps. It's part of your process.
and watch anime on DVD via my DVD player.
Awesome. Just a whole sensory experience. I love that. So how
Yeah.
about your portraits? I know your portraits are something that you're really well known for, and you do really amazing work there. Both pets.
Do Reagan and Gorbachev, Slobodan Milosevic, Vladimir Putin, Boris Yeltsin, George Bush, and Saddam Hussein. Recently, Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, just all the major players during the Cold War and Desert Storm, huh?
Right, and the post-Soviet Union, post-Soviet Russia, of course.
How about some of the news?
Boris Yeltsin to Vladimir
How about
Putin.
some of the newscasters that were?
And now coming the new Second Cold War with the rising power of China in the Far East.
Yeah. Well, how about the portrait slams where you get opportunities?
From the rival of other countries in Asia.
Yeah. George, can you tell us about working at portrait slams and?
First time, yes, I do fast stuff like that, quick stuff.
Yeah. What about pets? The pet portraits, because you're very good at those. Do you like doing?
Yeah, from pets, dogs, cats, you
You're
name it.
always real fast.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I know you're always a big hit at the portrait slams. People always your table's always busy, and people want to get their portrait done by George. Do you enjoy getting to know people and kind of trying to capture their essence in their portrait?
Yeah,
That's
and I get tips for them.
hey,
I get tips from them.
that's as someone who works for tips.
My Robin says, yeah, I won't ask for tips, but anyway, they give me tips.
Well, they want to reward you.
Inspire my ass.
Yeah. Sometimes it just
Yeah.
comes with the territory. Well, George, I'd like to know what it's been like for you working during the pandemic. Are you still? I mean, you showed us that piece earlier. Are you still finding time to work at home, and are you still finding inspiration to work at home?
Yes, I already work on my other pieces.
Yeah. How has it been for you?
Drawing sketches. and I got one of them in my basement.
How do you like working at home versus working at the studio? Does it kind of make you sad?
Because of the COVID-19.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you're looking forward to getting back into the studio, right?
Yeah.
But you've been busy at home working on art too?
Yes, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday, every Saturday.
Good.
11 a.m. to 4:20 p.m.
So you've got kind of a schedule that you work on then.
Just like you guys.
Great. That's good. That's good. I'm sure that helps. Well, is there anything else you've been working on that you can show us, George?
Anything?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's okay if you don't have anything.
my previous paintings.
I thought maybe you might have another.
My previous paintings.
Oh, hummus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tacos.
Yeah. Right.
Cool. Look, I think your sister might be grabbing something for us. That's cool. Well, I know everyone misses you in the studio. Robin just chimed in to say how much she misses you. But I'm glad to know that you've been busy.
Here comes this.
Awesome.
Here comes combat in Iraq. Combat in Iraq.
Hey, look at that.
During that long war with the new Iraqi government.
That's amazing, George. Very cool. Yeah, that's quite an action sequence you captured there. Now, is this based on an actual photograph you saw?
On a photograph. On our troops' recent deployment in Iraq and Afghanistan. That was the place back when I was a little boy, the Russians were there. The Russians were in Afghanistan.
Yeah, right. Is most of your work based on images that you see, or do you ever just kind of
on television, in movies, and on home video?
Right, I see.
Anime, manga, Godzilla movies in particular.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, George, that's so cool. Can you tell us a little bit more about? So I want to know a little bit more about your music. These Pump Up the Jams remixes, I know, are very popular at the studio.
Back when the Berlin Wall fell, and you also hear Billy Joel with "We Didn't Start the Fire."
That's right. That was a big hit back then.
Even the reference in the song deals with Tiananmen Square fiasco.
Yeah, a lot of political references.
Scenario June 1989.
Now, how about "Pump Up the Jam"? That was also a song that was very big in late.
Yeah, Technotronic did that.
Technotronic, that's right, featuring Ya Kid K, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about your Pump Up the Jams remixes.
Well, Bump It Up, my creation.
Can we hear
Bump. I derived that from that program.
Can we hear it?
Bump, 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 bump. Gonna bump all night. Gonna bump, bump, bump. So the morning light. Gonna bump. Bump it up.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we don't want to pump up the jam too much right now because it's we're getting a little late into the evening here. So no pressure, George. But I know that I know people at the studio can't wait to have that energy back in there. George, what's some advice you have for other artists who are working at home and who are trying to find inspiration during COVID-19?
Watch television and reports about that latest developments in COVID-19.
Yeah. So even if the news is kind of sad, you encourage them all to.
Very sad. Many people, scores of people die.
But you think it's important for everyone to keep watching and to know what's going on, huh?
Yeah. Even locally here in our Chicago.
Yeah. Does that help motivate you to keep working? Just watching the news?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Go outside with my mask on.
Yeah, that's important. Definitely got to be safe. Can't take any chances right now. Well, good.
I go out every Sunday. Usually go out every Sundays.
Well, I'm glad that you're still staying active and you're staying busy, but that you're being very smart and careful about it. That's important for everybody right now. Let's talk a little bit more about your journey to Project Onward, George. I want to know how you became involved with Project Onward because you were there at the very beginning, right?
Since 2004.
Yeah.
Starting with the downtown program.
Right. So tell us about, you were at Gallery 37.
Well, we were in the loop.
You were at Gallery 37 and then Project Onward, right?
Yes.
How did that happen? Who introduced you to Project Onward?
Well, Gallery 37 is Mark Jackson and Rob Lenz and And there was and future and later on the newcomer Robin
Yeah.
came to the program and taught us here.
Uh-huh.
We were at the we were in the cultural center at that time.
Right. And so who else would have been there? You would.
And he gave me access later on during the last months of our stay in the cultural center in the Loop at Michigan Avenue, the Pedway.
Mm-hmm.
Eat at the Pedway. Eat lunch at the Pedway.
And you were there with Louis DeMarco and Ruby Bradford and some of the other.
David Blaisdell too.
Oh, yes, of course, of course.
He used to be with us every day.
What's it like working with the other artists? Are you inspired by their work? Do you enjoy working around other artists and talking to them?
Yes, and watch videos on computers.
Of course.
On the new YouTube.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, let me ask you, George, if you have a favorite memory of Project Onward, of one of your accomplishments there. Is there something that sticks out that you really enjoyed? Because I know your work is very popular and it's been sold all over the world. You have people in Japan and China, I think, that own your work.
Oh, Tommy China.
Yeah. I mean,
the People's Republic of China.
What's that like? Is that kind of cool?
That nation was founded by Mao. Mao Zedong started that in 1949.
How do you feel knowing that your work is being displayed all over the world, George? Is that a good feeling?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any other?
How did you know my works are in China?
What was that?
How do you know my works are also in China?
I always have to do my research before these interviews. So Whitney told me that that some of your work was sold to someone in China.
Oh, in the capital city, Beijing.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. Is that?
And there they have military power. A strong, powerful military there.
Wow. Yeah, that's for sure.
Nuclear arsenals. A huge nuclear arsenal. Like that of the former communist Soviet Union. Of us, we four brothers, 1980s, last decade of the Cold War.
Yeah, wow.
Where the Soviet Union was a huge nuclear missile arsenal.
That's amazing. I got to say, George, I think this has been one of the most informative interviews, not necessarily from the artist's standpoint, but just from a foreign policy standpoint. I'm learning a lot, and I think everybody watching is too. You really know a lot. That's pretty amazing.
And I can't wait till the COVID is over. I can go to Japan after COVID is over.
Have you ever been to Japan before?
I saw images of Japan on TV and on films, anime, manga, and Godzilla films.
You're a huge fan of a lot of the art and culture in Japan. Are you really excited to go?
Yes, might be excited to
Where do you
go.
want to go first when you get to Japan? What's the first?
Tokyo.
Awesome.
That's the anime, the Tokusatsu, Godzilla, Gamera, and manga country. Superpower, Japan.
Robin pointed out that
Japan, the animation, the special effects, and comic book superpower, Japan.
Robin pointed out that your Basquiat is in Japan. Maybe you can even see it hanging somewhere while you're there. That would be really cool. Yeah. You think maybe you'll try to visit some anime studios?
My big sister visited there. My sister Virginia visited there with her husband, with her spouse Robin. No, with her spouse Marius and Chris.
That's so cool. Wow. Well, I really hope you get to go soon when this is all over. That would be really, really exciting.
Godzilla.
Yeah. How about
Tatsunoko anime?
Are you
include Masami from Generator Doll?
I know you like the old school Godzilla. Did you like the more recent movies that they've made?
Well, Shin Godzilla, the recent one.
Somebody said, here we go. Someone pointed out that you should go to the Miyazaki Museum. Have you seen his films?
Oh, really? I gotta go see that.
Are you?
I just read a book about Hayao Miyazaki, his daydream notebook.
Yeah.
That Virginia gave me from Japan. As a gift.
That's so cool.
As my birthday present.
Yeah. Wow, that's really amazing. Have you ever thought about animation yourself, George? Do you think that's something you'd ever like to try?
Tatsunoko anime. 20th and 21st century. I watched Generator Gall, the rest of Generator Gall, Kamugi, The Soul Taker. The Soul Taker is my favorite program.
Yeah. Oh, here, Wick's telling me I should show off the portrait that you did of us in our room. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to take everyone with us here.
Right.
Crib style into our very messy room.
Yeah. Oh, it's your house.
This is our house. Yeah, that's right. So we've got a portrait very proudly displayed. Let's see if everyone can see it.
Here is Robin. Here's your wife. Here's your spouse now. Spouse Robin. Whitney.
Yeah. Do you remember making this one, George?
Yes, I made this one.
We love it. It's very
It was very long in coming.
very prominently displayed in our room. It's so exciting having that piece here in our home. That was just before we got married. Can't thank you enough for that, George. We really, really love it. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Whoa.
I'm okay. Don't worry. That's why I don't usually do this. I can't multitask very well. Let's see. Oh, someone pointed out that Jano and George did an animation piece together. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, would we get to see Jano and George do an animation piece together? Is that something you've talked about doing with Jano?
Huh?
Doing animation with Jano. Do you think that's something you'd be interested in doing?
I think yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, I'm sure.
But yeah, it gotta be anime themed.
Yeah. I think considering how much it's influenced your work, it's definitely something.
Here he is now. Gall.
Oh.
My favorite character, Gall. He is a boy.
Uh-huh.
And Masami is a girl. I'll show you.
Great.
Here she is. Here's Masami, maybe in her late teens, I think. In this project book from Japan, released in Japan,
Very cool.
in Tokyo.
That's pretty incredible, George. Well, yeah, it's really fun to kind of get a little bit more insight into what inspires you, because your work is so interesting, and you've got so many,
I inspired me to draw Ranma half.
I mean, you've got so many cool different influences, and the way you bring them together is really awesome. I really like it a lot. It's definitely something that's pretty unique. Well, George, I want to open up some more questions to our viewers here, see if anyone else has anything they'd like to ask you. But I do want to know, while they're thinking about their questions, just how the pandemic has affected you personally, and how it makes you feel.
Yeah, scores of people die from the pandemic.
Yeah. How about you?
We're waiting for that vaccine to appear here.
Yeah. I'm sure. I know you tend to look at major historical events when you're kind of thinking about your own life. I mean, this is going to be probably a moment you'll remember forever, right? I mean, this is
Right.
Nothing like this has ever happened before.
Because maybe I just didn't have no idea about that. But we survived the Cold War.
That's right.
We survived the collapse of the Soviet Union.
That's right. And we'll survive this, right?
Right.
Excellent. Well, Whitney wants to know.
And the threat of nuclear war between our two countries has stopped. Has since stopped.
Good. It's history in the making, absolutely. We've got some questions coming in from the viewers.
We see Gorbachev alive and now Reagan dead.
That's right.
Reagan long dead.
That's right. Well, how do you feel about?
And now Bush
how do you
dead.
feel about-
Join Reagan.
What's your opinion on Putin? I don't want us to get hacked here, but how do you feel about how do you feel about the current leadership in Russia?
Yeah? About Putin.
Yeah. What's your opinion?
I think Putin is. I don't know about Putin because
Yeah.
some Americans say that maybe he was a warmonger.
Right. Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. Well, we've got some other questions coming in. We don't want to get too political here, but Whitney wants to know what it is about vicious animals you find so amusing.
Well, dogs and cats and wolves.
Do you think it's kind of funny to take an animal that looks really cute, but then make them really vicious? Yeah,
Yes.
that's pretty hilarious. Let's see. Nancy wants to know, have you been taking any long walks with Pa?
Yes, I haven't done that today.
Yeah.
I used to.
Who's Pa?
My
Your
pa.
Pa.
My pa.
Okay, great. Your dad. Awesome. Is that something you do regularly? Go on long walks together?
Yeah.
That's great.
Sometimes I walk by myself from here to downtown,
Really?
the loop and back.
Wow. And you do you live near the studio? Are you in that area on the south side? Whereabouts do you live, George? Are you on the south side?
Pilsen.
Here in our Pilsen.
Okay, excellent. And are you a Chicago native? Were you born and raised in Chicago?
Here in Chicago, yes.
Awesome.
Here in our
Well, that's a
Chicago.
cool neighborhood to go for walks in. That sounds like fun. Let me see. We got.
Yeah. It's just north of Bridgeport.
Oh, hey. So we've got another question. Oh, Louis wants to know if you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I actually would like to know that too because I'm a big fan.
What?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Are you a fan?
I used to. Oh yes, I'm still a fan of the program. I'm still a fan of the show.
Yeah. Who's your favorite?
From the first episode, the movie.
Yeah.
As well as the live action movie, the '90s live action version of the
Absolutely.
movie.
And the second one, Secret of the Ooze. That's a classic. Yeah. Who's your favorite turtle?
Michelangelo.
Good answer. He's the best. Okay, so we've got some more questions coming in. Kate Luther wants to know, on average, how long does it take you to finish a piece?
It takes about a day or two or a week or two.
A day or two or a week or two. That's a big window there. Now,
Yeah.
is it something that you do you think you're kind of a perfectionist, George, when you're working on stuff? I know you mentioned when you do portraits, you're usually able to just slam them out real quick. But when you're working on other pieces, one of these pieces that take a week maybe to finish, is it something that's hard for you to decide when it's done, or do you just kind of do whatever feels right? When you're working on
What did you
when you're
say?
working on a bigger piece, is it hard?
It takes about a week or two.
Yeah.
A few days, 3, 4, 5.
How do you know when it's done?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days.
How do you know when it's done, George?
Takes long, even longer.
Mhm. But what's it like finishing these big pieces? Do you know when it's finished, or
I asked about what you think.
yeah, you just kind of ask for others' opinions? Yeah, Whitney's chiming in saying not a perfectionist, but that's a strength. That's good. I know some people get really hung up on that, and it takes them much longer than it needs to finish a piece, but you're just kind of ready to move on to the next one. And it's good to ask for opinions from the people around you too. That always helps.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, George, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Anything else that's on your mind?
Nah, no, that's fine.
All right, great. I guess Reese's is probably still sleeping, huh?
Yes, it's still sleeping
Well,
Reese's.
that's okay. Maybe next time we'll get to meet Reese's. But George, thank you so much for helping us today, and I want to thank you.
No
I
problem.
want to thank your sister too. What was your sister's name? I'm sorry.
Elena, that's you.
Elena, great. Thank you so much for your help, and thank you so much to everyone watching. Definitely go to projectonward.org. Support Project Onward by buying some of George's amazing art, because it's all so good and will look really good hanging up in your home. If it's good enough for someone in Beijing and Tokyo, then I think it's good enough for you. So
Yeah. The two countries' military powers.
yeah, they do have military powers, that's for sure.
And Japan has had a new helicopter, a full flight deck helicopter carriers too.
Wow. Well, George, we're gonna have to do another segment
Finally.
soon where we just talk about military history with you, because that's all really fast.
And modern ones too. Both, but those are China and Japan and Russia.
Well, George, that's so cool. Thank you so much for all the great information and just kind of a peek inside your process. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Go to projectonward.org, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Later. Later.